All right, so maybe you are thinking about whether you should or should not choose to study an MBA. And it's something that requires a little bit of thought because it's a big decision. It takes a lot of time and money to achieve that qualification. So here's some things that you should think about. Now, by way of context, I did take the plunge and I studied an MBA, but it wasn't until I was in my early 30s and I had a really good idea of why I was doing it. Right? I was settled in my career, I knew where I wanted to go, and I determined that an MBA made sense and that it was going to benefit me. And I think you should get to that headspace too before you decide to take the plunge. So here's some considerations that you should think about before you decide to do it. Firstly, why? You have to have a good why. Are you doing it to improve your career prospects in corporate and business functions? If the answer is yes, I cannot think of a stronger reason to do an MBA because it just makes sense in those contexts. So anything people leadership, management, business analysis, strategic management, marketing, human resources management, finance, all those areas absolutely love MBA holding applicants, all right? Your resume will float to the top in just about all of those disciplines. Obviously, experience is hugely important as well for senior roles, but in terms of an on-paper qualification, in those settings, it doesn't get much better than a candidate with an MBA. So consider that. It will indeed help you to progress your career in those fields. If you are an entrepreneur, someone starting your own business or looking to start your own business, again, that is a context in which I think an MBA makes a heck of a lot of sense because it gives you the core education and understanding needed to make that business successful. And we'll get into the specific subjects later on in the video, so make sure you stick around. But before we do move on to how it's structured and how an MBA works, I just want to give you a word of warning with respect to when an MBA might not make sense. So a big part of my role is as a hiring manager. I hire a lot of people. And I have seen MBAs look out of place on a resume. If you have someone applying to be an executive assistant or an administration officer, something of that ilk, an MBA on the resume looks like a waste. It looks like overkill. It doesn't look particularly relevant to the job, and it doesn't really improve your chances of being selected for that job. Okay, so if you're not really that serious about doing something significant like starting your own business or, doing roles that are serious management roles or business analytics roles, things of that ilk in corporate land, I wouldn't bother investing in an MBA because it's not going to be of benefit to you. It's just going to be a waste of money and look out of place on the resume. So make sure that your career aspirations match up with the level, right, that an MBA is. It's a serious qualification in the corporate world. So make sure that you're aligned with respect to your why. Now, how is an MBA structured? I'm going to give you an example here from the university that I studied at, and I just love the way that they did it. So bear in mind, it's expensive and it's a huge time commitment. You're probably working full time. You might have, kids. You've probably got a significant other. So there's a couple of things that I really like about this particular university and the way they structured it. Okay, and it's not just this uni, it's many. Firstly, they split it up into 3 stages. Okay, so stage 1 is the graduate certificate in management. It takes about 4 to 8 months and it consists of 4 subjects. Stage 2 is the graduate diploma in management, which is another 4 subjects, again taking 4 to 8 months. And then the final stage, stage 3, is the MBA, and that is another 4 subjects, which again, surprise, goes for about 4 to 8 months. Now, the reason I've chosen to highlight this is that at any one of those stages, once you complete any one of those stages, you can choose to exit with that qualification against your name, and you have no obligation to continue on with your studies. So it's a really nice way to jump in, I think, and see if you like it. And then have that security of going, well, I know I can jump out if I want to after 4 subjects, and I'll still have, a qualification that's relevant to me on my resume. And I'm not going to worry about wasting a bunch of money doing something that I don't want to do. You're not obligated to continue on if you don't want to. So I really like the way that you can choose to exit at several of those points along the way, if you like. It's sort of, what's the best way to eat an elephant, right? One mouthful at a time. Breaking it up like this makes it seem a little bit more doable, and you can have that peace of mind knowing that you don't have to commit to the whole thing if you're still a little bit unsure. So look, it's going to take you about 2 years, right, to complete a master's degree in business. This particular course that I'm looking at here, the one that I did, is aimed at busy professionals who have a significant amount of work experience in people leadership or managerial roles under their belt already, because that is what gives you the equivalent qualification in the university's eyes to a bachelor's degree in business, right? That 4-year degree that you'd ordinarily have to do before you do the master's component. So it is predicated on that, and you will have to do an application and have a couple of people sign off to verify that you have that experience practically under your belt. But in my experience, if you have actually worked in management and business related roles for any significant length of time, that's not a difficult thing to do. All right, they do value practical experience. Right, let's jump on to how the course is structured. Most of you will be curious about this. So when you sign up to do an MBA, there are usually 8 core subjects that everybody has to do. Let's go through them quickly, and you'll see highly applicable. Leadership, strategic management, strategic human resources management, operations and strategy management, marketing management, financial management, corporate governance, and project management. So they are the 8 core subjects that everybody will have to do. As I said, highly relevant. Then it gets interesting because you get to choose after you've done those core subjects whether you want to do a general MBA or if you want to go down the rabbit hole and do a specialized MBA. And what I mean by specialized is you get to choose your MBA specialization subjects, and they could be things like human resources management, entrepreneurial management, finance, logistics and supply chain management, or marketing management by way of example. You could choose to specialize in any one of those areas. If you, on the other hand, just do what I did and choose a general MBA, you get to choose 3 elective subjects, and you have a vast array of subjects to choose from. Perhaps we'll cover those off at the end. And then when you've done that, you get to complete the 12th and the final subject, which is called the project, the capstone subject. And that can be on any particular subject you want it to be. I did mine on strategic finance management, basically, which was really fun. So they are the 2 pathways that you can choose to go down when you finish off the last part of your MBA. Finally, just to cap off the general MBA, I mentioned that there were elective subjects that you can choose from. There are some examples. We'll quickly go through them. You could do things like artificial intelligence for business. You could do cybersecurity for managers. You could do business consulting, investment management, and a whole array of other subjects. There's an enormous amount of subjects to choose from if you want to go down that road. So there are my thoughts on the MBA, and I hope that gives you a bit of an idea as to what you might be in for. Let's finish off with cost. All right, it cost me a few years ago $2,500 to $3,000 Australian dollars per subject, and bearing in mind there are 12, so it is a significant investment. Make sure that you go into it eyes wide open and that it's going to be of value for you if you choose to go down that road. Best of luck with it. Hope that helped.